find him. Dr. Burgess, we call you here to talk to you about a couple of things. Housing in Jamaica. And we are in what is called the silly season. Everybody trying to put their best foot forward. But coming from the 70s, the 60s, how have we been doing in providing affordable housing for our people in Jamaica?
Well, certainly in the last 10 to 20 years, but certainly in the last 10 years, we're doing worse. And the crisis is deepening. So coming from the 60s, we did okay. We did 20,000 homes. In the 70s, which was our second best period, we did 42,000 homes. Double the production of the 60s and the 80s.
So hold on, you're saying in the 60s, hold on, you're saying in the 60s, we do 20,000. 20,000. Yes. And in the 70s?
Was 42,000.
42,000. And in the 80s?
It dropped a little bit to 32,000, and that was because of, crisis and other things and some missteps. So sometimes governments have to take responsibility for making bad decisions. So if you have a housing crisis, Mr. Colin, you can't put more money into credit. You have to put more money into supply. Yes. A crisis means you don't have enough of something.
Yes.
In order to have more of something, you have to turn up the production. And so that was a mistake of the 80s, and so it fell. And then in the 90s now, which was the highest production of houses, they almost got up to 50,000, 48,000 and change to be precise. And that was because of a particular reason. Yes, they had crisis, that also crisis as well, but in the 90s, what the government of the day did was to formulate more JVs that were tightly controlled towards the low-income end of the market.
More what?
At the end of the... Sorry, what was that?
You said more JD, that's what you said?
Joint ventures that were tightly controlled towards the low-income end of the market. Starter homes and the one-bedroom homes and the two-bedroom homes for the affordable end of the market.
So between 2000 and 2010, how many did we do?
From 2000 to 2010, it has dropped to 22,000 thereabouts. I'm going to bring up the exact figure and tell you. But it has dropped progressively from that almost now to 11,000, 12,000 in the last 5 years. So we see where the trend is going.
So
and it's not that we're not building pretty homes, we're building pretty homes.
Yeah.
But pretty homes are more expensive to build than starter homes.
Right.
And we have to make up our mind if we're going to house the nature or if we're going to build pretty homes.
So you're saying no, we are not building enough houses for low income people?
Exactly.
I'd really love to get the figure between 2010 to 2020, 2020 to present, because
you have the exact numbers here now.
Go ahead.
2000 to 2010, the exact number was 40,700. 2010 to 2019 was 28,000.
Hold on, 2010
to 2019.
2019. How much was that?
Was 28,000.
28,000.
864.
28,864. And 2019 to present?
Millions of people are attacked by bacteria, causing inflammation and gum problems. Unlike others, Colgate Total Superior Formula fights bacteria and creates a powerful protective barrier for up to 24 hours to prevent them from coming back.
Present?
11,981.
11,981. So our best was in the 90s and 2000.
In the 90s it was 48,250.
And 2000 to 2010 was 47,000.
40,700.
Oh, 40,700 and how much?
755.
55. I'm writing down these figures, Dr. Burgess, because these are things that people normally ask and we want to know. Because on this program, we pride ourselves on speaking just the truth, not about...
All right, so, no, Colin, having said all of this, I must tell you that we have institutions, national institutions, that are, for the most part, remain focused on keeping a record of the truth. And the Planning Institute of Jamaica and their libraries has been instrumental. And so, for example, I have the last 60 years of data on the economy and the social economic survey report, which is put out. And these are national records. This is not people putting things out of the sky or telling whether the HH or the NHT to make up some story.
So anybody can go find this?
Anybody can go and find it. As a matter of fact, if they push me hard enough, I might tell them to find it.
You might do what?
Tell them to find it.
Okay. Now, Dr. Burgess, housing, yes. But also, I am of the opinion that if you give a Jamaican a piece of land, they're going to build on it. How have we been doing as it relates to land distribution? We listened to Luther and Cousins yesterday talking about how many the government still have over 70% of the lands in Jamaica and people can't get a piece of land to build a house. How have we been doing with that?
How do we deal with it?
How have we been doing in terms of giving access to our people to land?
So I wrote an article on it. And I'm a land developer. I must tell you that I do try to get land myself. And the situation is not always transparent, but it's also not very affordable all the time as well. So in order to get a developer to acquire land to build affordable homes is not an easy task. And so to answer that question, how have we been doing? We've been doing very bad. Reason being, and I'm going to borrow an example from the late 60s and early 70s. A part of how Portmore was built was the government of the day divided up government land, master planned it, and turned it over to developers and said to them, we want you to build this.
Yes.
We don't have that happening now. What is an auction system where the man with the most money wins? If you have a auction system, this market-driven system, you're going to get houses that are geared towards the middle and the high income.
Yeah.
And it's bad business. And the reason why I say it's bad business is because there are far fewer in the high income bracket than there are in the low income bracket. As a matter of fact, probably 70 to 80% of the market is in the lower middle to the low income bracket. So the government needs to kind of refocus the government land and do targeted joint ventures as they did in the 90s as well. So
the housing trust was mainly designed to assist with low income housing. What are your assessment of the housing trust over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 7 decades?
All right. Fantastic. NHT has been fantastic and has saved the people of Jamaica as far as housing is concerned. So from its inception, it has, I think, issued almost 300,000 mortgages. But in the difficult time when the government was in crisis, what we found out, was seeing the data, is that the NHT was the one that kept building going.
Yes.
Because it had a large pool of money and it had a very steady hand in how the building went on. And so in my estimation, over that wide range of time from 1976, when it was created to now, it has been the savior for low, middle, and even some high-income persons and housing.
Yeah,
now, let me be honest, in the last 10 to 20 years, I think it has lost focus on its mandate. And it's more focused now on what I would call the demand side, providing mortgages. And that's fine. but you also need to provide support to developers who want to build a home.
Yes.
If you have a demand for 15 homes and you're only building 2, then the 2 that are built will fetch a higher price than if you had built the 15.
Yes.
And that is almost exactly what is happening. We have an annual demand of 15,000, and we're building between 2,000 and less than 3,000 a year.
That's what I was just about to come to. What is the demand?
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying yearly we need 15,000 houses to satisfy the demand. How much are we building?
Between 2,000 and 3,000.
So let's go to the high end. We're building 3,000 a year. So we are short 12,000 houses. Do we have the capacity, Dr. Burgess, to deliver 15,000 houses annually for the people of Jamaica?
I think so. And, this is where history is great. And when we keep track of these things in our records, we can learn. So 1975 was our most productive year. We built 10,000 homes.
1975.
1975. Our second most productive year was in 1994, where we built 8,100 homes.
1994.
94.
We
yes.
built 8,000.
Yes. These were all done with system houses.
What's that?
So with like precast panels.
Okay. Like the Portmore houses.
Technology which lends itself to mass production.
Right.
So we've had this technology for somewhere between 30 to 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine that we've gotten better at it. Machines are faster. So, we know a little bit more about concrete.
So why we're not building those houses anymore?
Well, I think a big part of it is not so much the technology of building, but the business of building and how these joint ventures are being, how these joint ventures for building affordable homes are not being created.
So would it be safe to say then that government is not being proactive or active in that kind of market, joint venture?
Absolutely. We're not applying ourselves to the problem. Gradually over the last 10 years, 20 years, we're not applying ourselves to the problem. And nobody must say, we had a crisis here or a crisis there. We had crisis in the 70s, we had crisis in the 80s, we had crisis in the 90s. So don't ball COVID either. So, it's time to get on with it, man.
What would be your suggestion to any one of the administration that will form the next government in Jamaica?
It's simple. 2 things. 1, form joint ventures with the government lands that are available, with purpose design, purpose built housing schemes. So, for example, you may find a piece of land, 2,000 acres, and you say, I want 12,000 homes here. They must not exceed 9 million or 10 million.
Yeah.
And that is the basis on which you get that piece of land to build.
Because you're doing volume so you can get more money.
I'm sorry, what was that?
No, so the fact that you're doing volume, quick sale, the profit might be small, but the volume will make up for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you can't build 10,000 high-income homes or middle-income homes. There's nobody to take that up.
Right. It is
the first thing is purpose design joint ventures with government land.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I would say to any administration is all hands on deck. Now, in the 70s, a part of the reason why they produced so much homes is at one point, and even the U.S. government came to Jamaica in the 70s, not only for other reasons, but to study how we're building homes. And USAID said that at one point in time, there were 7 government entities building homes.
In Jamaica.
So this idea where it must be only NHT, only HHA involved in housing, we need to put that aside. We need to now look to Sugar Company again.
Yes.
Look to the Ministry of Agriculture, look to local government, and even the Ministry of Health, and say, listen, from you, I want 1,000 homes this year. From you, I want 4,000. From you, I want 6,000 homes.
So
because that's how they did it in the past.
So you are saying to build 50,000 houses in 5 years, it is quite doable?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. I think the target is quite humble. Yes, it's quite humble.
Now, Dr. Burgess, you also weighed in on the water issue. We have had Jesse James Clark here with us, who spoke about the Water Commission submitting their findings to the KSMC. No release from the Ministry of Health. The KSMC came out, spoke about it, in fact started to warn people to boil their water. We heard the Water Commission come back and say that they will no longer be submitting their results to the KSMC, but they will be putting it on their website. You have looked at what they put out. What did you find?
I've looked at 4 months. I've looked at the first 2 months, which kind of brought the issue of poor water quality in rural Kingston, rural St. Andrews, to the fore. And it was alarming. And then they went into this mode of not sharing information. And then I've looked at March and April's data. And that too was alarming. And what was alarming about it as well is that they did not use what the WHO and it's internationally accepted as the parameter to measure the water quality with, or the safety of the water quality with.
Right.
And, you know, Colin, here is my thing to my friends who are engineers at the NWC. It's okay for you to have a system giving problems for 1 month or 2 months.
Yes.
But this situation where we're locked down as a people and we decide not to tell our brothers and sisters what are the truth or what is happening, or not to be open, but to play politics with human health and to close down and then to be gulping water on the internet and saying that the water is fine, when we know it's not fine, is dangerous. It's health, you know. And I want to remind everybody about the typhoid situation in the 90s that killed people.
Talk to me.
And the 70s as well. There was 1 month in November in Westmoreland, at November 92, I think it was. 4 people died and 140 people got sick. I'm not saying that we have the potential for typhoid on top of us, no.
Mm-hmm. But we can't ramp
with the kind of things that lead to it.
Right, we can't ramp with the reporting and
we can't ramp with people's health.
But why would the Water Commission refuse to now submit their water sampling findings to the KSMC? What do you think about that?
Well, if you have something to hide, maybe it is you don't want to share it. Maybe it is that if it was good news, you would share it.
So, the E.
But
coli...
hang on there, Colin. I don't want you to focus on NWC alone. Yes, NWC have primary responsibility to sample and test. But Ministry of Health has the capacity to test.
Yes.
The Office of the Utility Regulation is legally bound to receive that information from NWC. They have a right to that information based on the license with NWC, and they have not insisted on it except to make an excuse for not getting it.
So, are you of the opinion that they are relinquishing their responsibility as it relates to getting that report from NWC?
Well, OUR hasn't asked for it. You should ask. OUR, they have already made a reason for it. And Ministry of Health has said the water is safe, but I want to ask them, you know, what did the May report show? Because there's a reason why we live in Jamaica. You know, we have friends in every place, nook and cranny, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And, you know, what did the May report show?
But it is rather strange and shocking that the minister is also supporting the Water Commission not to give the water sample result to the KSMC. And I heard you on another interview, and I don't remember exactly if you were saying that the E. coli aspect is no longer in the report.
Exactly. So they didn't use the E. coli measurement, which is the WHO, the international standard, which we test right down in Crossroads here. There's a lab that can test it. There's another lab of Pope Gardens who can test E. coli, and we refuse to use the right parameter. They change from total to fecal coliform rather than just using E. coli. So they're all over the place.
So there's a lack of transparency, would you say?
Lack of transparency. That's the number one thing, transparency. And they know that may fail as well. Just come straight, tell the people what's wrong and how it's going to be fixed.
Hold on. Did I hear you say that May results were not up to standard?
We're not up to standard. And they know too.
And the government is keeping this as a secret?
Well, one asked them about me, but what did the Ministry of Health say to them about me?
We will ask those questions. What did the Ministry of Health said about the NWC water result for the month of May? Dr. Burgess, exactly. You are an engineer. You are a civil engineer, you said?
Yes.
And you are involved in construction and all of that?
Land development,
engineering, all of that. I want to ask you about something that I did not mention when I spoke to you about this interview. And if you don't wish to get into it, I will understand. What would it cost to build, estimated, to build a 400-bed hospital in Jamaica? Roughly.
No, I can't venture down that lane. That one, I would need a few minutes to work it up.
Okay.
Yes, I need a few minutes to work it up.
So let me ask you this. Do you have any opinion on the projected $23.5 billion for the Cornwall Regional Hospital?
All right. I can't speak to the cost because the cost of the hospital is more than the concrete and steel equipment and other things. But what I can speak about is the project management process.
Yes.
It is highly unusual. Highly unusual.
Highly what?
Unusual.
Unusual. Talk to us. Why would you say that?
So it's okay to open up a box and say it's going to take you 1 year to, fix it.
Yes.
And then after you start to fix it and you look in the corner of the box, you realize that this room needs to demolish and rebuild. And you say to the world, I don't need 1 year. I might need 2 years. So give me another year.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody going to crucify it for that. It kind of is not ideal.
Yeah.
But in the world of project management and construction, airports, hospitals, hotels, we plan things down to weeks.
Yes.
Not months, down to weeks.
Down to weeks.
I'm going to tell you something. The Chinese plan things down to days.
Yeah.
So when you are 5 years off,
it's terrible.
You are in la la land.
Problem.
La la land. Something is wrong.
Dr. Burgess, I'm not going to press you any further on that. Let me thank you for your time this evening, for talking to us about housing, water quality, and giving us a little insight in what you think about the Cornwall Regional Hospital. Thank you very much, Dr. Burgess. All the best.
Take care, Colin. Take care, listen.
Dr. Christopher Burgess. That's the man you're seeing on the screen behind me.